A Northwest man has died after losing control of his car and crashing into an oncoming truck on the Frankfurt highway. Wet and slippery conditions are being blamed for the crash, which brings the state's road toll to 21.
In teeming rain, emergency services inspect the head-on collision which claimed a 56-year-old man's life. Shortly after 10 o'clock, this small orange hatchback slid around a corner and onto the wrong side of the road, right into the path of an oncoming truck.
The truck has gone over the top of the car.
The impact killed the driver of the small car. The vehicle then burst into flames, which caused the truck to catch on fire as well. The distressed truck driver tried to put it out, but to no avail.
When the truck caught fire, he tried to extinguish the fire. However, with the fire extinguishers, he's got the fire was too big. So he's quite upset about it.
Police say slippery road conditions contributed to the crash. The Frankfurt Highway already has an ugly reputation for serious and fatal crashes. But in wet weather like this, police say it's even more reason to slow down and take extra care.
Perhaps going a bit fast for the corner, but that's not saying he was speeding. It's just driving to the conditions.
Traffic was diverted for close to 5 hours while investigations took place. The road toll now stands at 21 compared to 20 this time last year. A report is being prepared for the coroner. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Police have arrested a 28-year-old man over a Bridgewater shooting. 24-year-old Caleb Woods was shot in the stomach outside his grandmother's house 2 weeks ago. A man was arrested in a police operation this morning at an unspecified motel in Hobart's northern suburbs.
This brutal attack will impact two very young men, one who has a long road to recovery and the other who has a potentially long prison sentence ahead. But mostly it's the families of both of these young men.
The alleged victim has regained consciousness and is under medical supervision. Police haven't released details of charges. The Bureau of Meteorology is embroiled in a storm tonight over its planned restructure of Tasmanian weather forecasting. A range of groups, including farmers, boaters and emergency service workers, are all scathing of a proposal to centralise forecasting interstate. They say losing crucial local weather knowledge.
This is the hub of Tasmania's weather forecasting, a team with local knowledge and years of experience keeping an eye on our skies. But these roles could move interstate.
They have an intricate knowledge of the Tasmanian microclimates that you can't expect someone in Melbourne or Brisbane in a weather forecasting sausage factory churning out weather forecasts around the country to know.
In an email sent to staff this week, management outlined major transformations. Forecasts to come from national production teams proposed to be based in Melbourne and Brisbane, using automation to the maximum extent possible. State teams to be focused on what's described as customer service delivery.
We're yet to find out the details of what that actually means, but we do know they will not be forecasting the weather for Tasmania.
Local boaters are just one of many groups concerned by the proposal, lamenting the loss of local experts.
People won't go boating on a poor forecast. They will go boating on a reasonable forecast, but if that's wrong and it turns into something quite pear-shaped, we're putting lives at risk.
The Firefighters Union is concerned about bushfire safety, with its members highly reliant on weather forecasts.
Might be a southwesterly blowing at 30 kilometres an hour, but actually knowing what that means locally is crucial. They won't have that local knowledge.
The Bureau says it's committed to localised and tailored weather expertise, and there won't be any job losses. It says the plan will allow locally based staff more time to provide specialist expertise to key state sectors such as emergency services, agriculture, the Antarctic and energy.
We need to talk to the Bureau of Meteorology to see how that will impact. Local knowledge is always important, but I'm not sure how it's going to impact on us as yet.
It's really important for there to be forecasters on the ground in Tasmania because they can look out the window and see what's happening, whereas someone in Melbourne and Brisbane can't.
It's understood a final decision will be made later this year, with the Bureau facing a storm of opposition to the plan. Michael BREEN, Southern Cross News.
TASSAL has turned its hand to a new venture, now preparing to harvest its first crop of giant kelp. The seaweed has been almost wiped out in Tasmanian waters, but the salmon giant is using its fish byproducts in an attempt to regenerate the species.
Lying just below the surface, giant kelp ready to be harvested. Salmon farmer TASSAL is growing tonnes of the endangered species next to its Okehampton Bay fish pens in an effort to give back to the environment.
Emissions from salmon farming provide soluble nutrients, so the giant kelp uptakes those nutrients for growth.
Each benefits from having the other one in the area, if you like. So it's more of a holistic point, a holistic view in terms of growing the different species rather than just looking at them in isolation.
Once abundant, giant kelp forests have been almost wiped out in Tasmania as waters get warmer. Now TASSAL is preparing to harvest its first crop of the seaweed after a 2-year trial, donating some plants to regenerate kelp forests on the Tasman Peninsula.
The kelp itself has disappeared from the east coast, so by growing the kelp here at Okehampton, we might be facilitating the regeneration of the kelp in the area.
But the crop lies just metres away from TASSAL's controversial salmon pens at Triabunna, heavily criticised for their impact on the environment. TASSAL says it's working with the environment to deliver broader benefits.
This more sophisticated way of undertaking marine farming in Tasmania through eco-aquaculture represents a new way of providing a whole range of different environmental benefits and services.
Moving forward, TASSAL will soon start investigating how it can use the kelp harvested from these waters in other ways, including commercially in the food and beverage industry.
As part of these trials and the success that we're achieving at the moment, we'd like to think that we could expand this type of eco-aquaculture onto our different sites at places like Newbina or Port Arthur or even Dover.
The kelp will be harvested in November. Michelle WISBEY, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania Police has today launched a new program to support staff and volunteers who identify as LGBTI. The Emergency Services Support Network is made up of 12 specially trained staff offering their help to those in the police, fire, SES and ambulance services. The Police Commissioner said Tasmania's emergency services were proud to employ people of all genders and sexual orientations.
This is about providing support for our workforces and our volunteers to make sure that they feel supported and we have a diverse and inclusive workforce.
The network will now be rolled out across Tasmania. St Helens has turned orange as excitement grows ahead of tomorrow's one-night stand concert. The small town of just 2,500 will soon play host to 20,000, but it's not without safety warnings.
It's near empty now, but come tomorrow this field will become the stomping ground for 20,000 festival goers, some getting the jump on the action ahead of the one-night stand concert in St Helens.
I'm so keen. I'm pretty sure everyone is. I can't wait. Been waiting for days.
Really keen to see Peking Duck. Came all the way up from Stanley actually.
Are you going to come? Yeah?
The event usually hosted at towns with populations of 30,000. St Helens has just 2,500 and they're rolling out the welcome wagon.
The whole town is embracing orange. We've got over 40 odd businesses had their businesses dressed up in orange to paint the town orange.
The Break a Day Mayor says the free show will have a huge impact on the region and on Tasmania.
It's certainly putting St Helens on the map. This is going to be the biggest event that's ever been on the east coast of Tasmania. It's absolutely going to be huge.
But with big crowds come big concerns, police promising to be out in force at the drug and alcohol-free event.
There'll no doubt be some people who try to get some material in or who turn up at the gate affected by drugs or alcohol. We'll have our drug detector dogs here and their handlers and a number of detectives from the Drug Investigation Services.
And for drivers a little too keen,
there's going to be a significant increase in the amount of traffic on the roads. We hope people will take that into account, give themselves plenty of time to get here and drive safely.
This is where it's all happening tomorrow. The rain is expected to clear up. The grounds are still quite muddy, so advice to festival goers, don't forget your gumboots.
But it's going to knock your socks off.
Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
First half of Launceston's new mall will reopen next week. Workers are being rostered around the clock to have the full project finished in late September, 8 weeks ahead of schedule. 10 locally made bronze thylacines were installed yesterday. The project's opening date has been brought forward thanks to the roof canopies being built off-site.
And there's 55,000 pavers been installed, every one of them laid by hand, so a lot of detail, a lot of finishing off in all those types of things as well.
Construction has been ongoing since April. A Tasmanian team is tackling a logistical nightmare in the search for a million-year ice core from the depths of Antarctica. They're setting up a convoy of specialist vehicles to travel more than 1,000 kilometres across the icy continent.
Drilling into the ice, researchers are hunting for hidden scientific treasures, the extracted ice cores giving them a window into the past.
Spaces between snowflakes that fall actually get trapped off and seal off little bubbles of past atmosphere. And we can crack open those bubbles of past atmosphere, a million years old or older, and actually measure the composition of the atmosphere in the past.
Scientists are now focusing on finding the so-called million-year ice core. Engineers at the Antarctic Division headquarters in Kingston are making new drill designs capable of burrowing 3 kilometres deep. The ice at that level hope to bring new insights into major shifts in the Earth's climate.
If we want to understand where we're pushing the climate in long term, then we need to understand what's happened to the climate in the past.
But getting to the remote drilling location is proving to be a major challenge. The division developing a traverse system of snow groomers, tractors and sleds to take the team and its supplies to what's being called Dome C, a mobile research facility 1,200 kilometres and around 15 days travel from Casey Station.
Yes, it'll be long, hard, cold, monotonous type days. In saying that, it's very exciting because we will be able to access parts of the interior of Antarctica that we can't at the moment.
The first drilling party is expected to set off in 2021. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Tasmanians have stumbled in stilettos and hobbled in heels for the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes fundraiser. The event raises money for White Ribbon's Breaking the Silence campaign to end domestic violence. The education program will run in primary and secondary schools.
We're hoping to, I suppose, create a generation of young people who say no to violence against women.
Although the rain turned a few walkers away, the HARCOURTS Foundation still managed to raise $100,000 this year. The event has raised more than $500,000 in total since it began 4 years ago. Tasmanian clinical trials are giving hope to people affected by cancer, helping pave the way for new treatments. The projects are benefiting from the generosity of Tasmanians through donations to the local branch of the Cancer Council.
4 years ago, Gemma Allen received life-changing news.
So when I was 18, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 3. It was extremely difficult. I probably was in denial for quite a while about it. I think it was until my second chemo treatment that I actually realised this is happening.
After several rounds of chemo, she was treated with therapy from a clinical trial.
Me and my family sat down, went through the decision making and decided to be part of the clinical trial. So I underwent treatment for 6 months with obviously a good result because I'm still here today.
Now in remission, Gemma is just one of many Tasmanians involved in clinical trials at the Royal Hobart Hospital. They've been helped along by Cancer Council Tasmania, which has provided more than $4.5 million for research over the past 2 decades.
It's hugely beneficial. We know that the money over many years and that's been invested in trials is now saving lives both nationally and internationally. So it's a very good return on investment for Tasmanians who provide funding to Cancer Council Tasmania.
Each year we try and offer clinical trials to as many Tasmanians as possible so that they can access new treatments and in some ways hope.
Ruby COMMANE, Southern Cross News.
Richie Porte's old form is starting to show again. Still on the mend after breaking his collarbone in the Tour de France, the Tasmanian did something he hasn't done in years, charging ahead in the breakaway group during last night's tour of Spain. Richie Port was something of a lame duck going into the Tour of Spain. Beset by illness and a wounded collarbone, he didn't expect to rank highly. But that's clearly given him a new tact on the Tour, charging ahead in the breakaway group during stage 6.
Port looks very relaxed.
It was back to normal when the peloton caught up with 32 kilometres to go. But that changed some 10k's later when the safety barriers got in the way. Port still finished well behind in the pack, but has no regrets about the push.
It was just nice to do something different. I haven't been in a breakaway for years, so it was quite enjoyable.
Back home and on the TSL's semi-final eve, Glenorchy coach Paul Kennedy has told his players to put the euphoria of last week's win over Launceston behind them.
They're great memories to have, but I said to the guys, you've got to forget about that side of it, because if you go into games against teams this good on a high, they're just going to rip you straight back down to earth really quickly.
Kennedy rates North Launceston's consistency as the best in the league, and he needs every ounce from his Magpies to topple them.
We'll need to be better again this week. We can't have that 30-minute lapse that we had last week and beat North Launceston.
And the championship-winning Hobart Chargers have released their end-of-season report, with the debt-free club committing to add more to its war chest, while David Bartlett says there's growing mainland support for the proposed Southern Huskies NBL side.
There's been a sort of outpouring of support from the whole Australian basketball community who want new, fresh teams and fresh brands and fresh clubs they can support in the NBL.
Good evening, happy Friday. 13 degrees today for Hobart, Launceston and Burnie, 12 degrees in Devonport. 15 was the state's top today for Flinders Island, 14 for Strahan, 13 degrees for King Island, Friendly Beach, Campania and Ouse, 12 at Cape Grim, Low Head and St Helens, with 9 at Sheffield. On the charts today, Tasmania largely hidden by cloud. Further out shows an organised cloud band moving across the southeast of the country and the southwest of Queensland. Mid to low cloud over South Australia with patches of cumulus cloud up north. Tomorrow a weakening cold front crosses Tasmania and Victoria. A trough sits across the north of the country while a high pressure system drifts towards the Bight. Southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, reaching 35 to 40 about the south and the lower east, with seas between 2 and 4 metres. Plenty of warnings for the weekend. A gale warning for lower eastern and southern coastal waters. A strong wind warning for all remaining waters. A small craft wind alert for the Central Lakes. A flood watch is current for northern basins, and a sheep graziers alert for the southeast coast and the upper Derwent regions. 11 tomorrow for Hobart, 8 for Medina and Oatlands, showers throughout those parts. A few clouds about the north, 13 in Launceston, 12 for Devonport, 3 with showers for Lyowini. 11 in Burnie, 10 for Strahan and Marrawar, showers expected there, with 13 in St Helens, partly cloudy, 12 for Swansea and 11 at Orford. Showers expected in the west and also the south on Sunday, fine elsewhere. Fine on Monday, just some light showers possible for the west and the far south, with a fine day on Tuesday, some morning frost possible with light showers through the north. 19 degrees tomorrow in Perth, a cloudy day in Canberra, 14, 13 in showers for Melbourne, 21 in Sydney, mostly sunny conditions, 28 for Brisbane. And currently it's a few clouds about in Hobart, 11 degrees, Launceston 9 and 11 in Devonport. Jo, let's hope that weather clears up on the east coast for all those revellers down there. Have a good weekend.
I know, I hope it's not raining for them, that's for sure. All right, that's all from the team for now. Thanks so much for your company. We'll see you a little later with updates. Bye-bye.